Absolutely loves it. Packed with Pokemon gear and fun for all ages. You got to go to PokeClaw. I love it. Jenin wants to go there every Saturday. It's just a wonderful place to go for the family, for the kids. PokeClaw. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us once again on the State of Freedom.
The State of Freedom is a listener-supported podcast. We're committed to pursuing the truth about policymaking, decisions, and situations in Louisiana and at the national level that stand to impact our freedoms.
Please become a monthly supporter of the State of Freedom at freedomstate.us as we continue to expand the voice of liberty across Louisiana and beyond. Fuego, it's just unbelievable. Whether it's the flame-grilled carne asada or a signature mango margarita, I had one of those too. They're serving up a literal feast of freedom at Calle Fuego. It's just extraordinary. I love the owners, Andres and Jose. They run such a great restaurant. The service is extraordinary. The atmosphere is great. So if you're in Pineville and the Alexander area or passing through, or if you live there, go to Calle Fuego and tell them the State of Freedom sent you.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the State of Freedom, where we are grounded in faith in the Constitution, and we are committed to giving voice to the truth, living with courage, and taking action. It is Wednesday, February 4th. It's 10 a.m. Central. I'm Danielle Walker, and I'm joined by my friend and co-host, the founder and watchdog-in-chief of Louisiana Citizen Advocacy Group, Chris Alexander. Good morning to you, Chris.
Well, good morning, Danielle. It's good to see you as always.
Good to see you. And we are coming to you live on Voice of the People USA TV and radio network on Rumble, X, YouTube, and Facebook. For anyone who's looking for us on pilled.net, which is something we've been encouraged to try out, we haven't quite gotten there yet. So maybe we'll be on there by tomorrow. So stay tuned. But you can always catch us later on our audio-only podcast platforms like Spotify and Apple Podcast. And I'm not sure how this morning the ad queued up before the intro, but if that's the worst thing that happens all show, we're going to be in good shape, Chris.
Absolutely. We have trudged through far worse storms.
Well, the PokeClaw ad is pretty cute, so I hope people take advantage and get their kids over there, because it seems like a pretty great spot.
Gotta go to PokeClaw.
Highly recommended by the one and only Jenin Alexander.
Absolutely. The ultimate authority on PokeClaw.
That's right. Well, happy Wednesday, everybody. The deal today is that we have a few things on the agenda to talk about: the status of eminent domain and some legislation that's been pre-filed. We might get into some stuff on the Senate and congressional races that seem to be heating up ahead of final qualification deadline, which is coming up in about a week, and some updates on the election integrity front. So we got a jam-packed day or morning, and anyone who is a subscriber, get up in the chat. Let us know what you think. We want to take questions from you. We want to take this conversation where you want it to go.
Danielle, you remember the government ad for the Army? The guy, the big Uncle Sam's looking down and says, "We want you," and he's pointing at
Yeah.
you. Well, we want to hear from you.
That's right. Exactly
We
right.
want to hear from you.
Exactly right. So before we hear from you, and before you hear too much from us, we will read the scripture of the day. Today's passage is Titus chapter 2, verses 7 through 8. And this is the Apostle Paul writing a letter to his spiritual son, Titus, encouraging him and instructing him on how to lead the church in Crete. And it says, "Above all, set yourself apart as a model of a life nobly lived. With dignity, demonstrate integrity in all that you teach. Bring a clear, wholesome message that cannot be condemned, and then your critics will be embarrassed with nothing bad to say about us." How great is that? It's just a great reminder, Chris, and I think a fresh challenge to us to live and lead by example with such integrity that any attacks by our critics are embarrassing to them. And the truth is that how we live and what's in our heart is only known by God and by us. So it's wise to seek the Lord and to invite Him to inspect our hearts every day for our motives in case there's anything that's out of alignment with Him in our own hearts. Because if we make that a discipline and we keep adjusting as He shines a light on those places that are out of alignment, we become more and more like Him, and we don't have to fear the scrutiny of anyone because He's our
Exactly.
judge.
And of course, you know, we could live with absolute and total flawless perfection, and it would not stop those who have ulterior motives, which are not sincere and not pure, from attacking us. You know, the greatest men and women in history were attacked and attacked viciously. Look what happened to our Savior. So
That's right.
we're not ever going to be inoculated from attacks, but by seeking God every day, purifying our motives, and doing the very best that we can, we will be able to be sustained under those attacks and emerge victorious from them. And that is a guarantee from the Lord. For we, I mean, he even says that the angels in heaven will rejoice at your victory. I love that psalm.
Yeah, and you know, Chris, this topic, this theme, has been percolating since our conversation with Dr. Malone yesterday. Because I was thinking about it after we interviewed him. What an incredible man! What a incredible example of faithfulness, of humility, of excellence. I'm just so impressed by him when he could be sitting there in his ivory tower because he has every credential to put on that expert class badge, right? But he doesn't. He is a man who lives in humility and who honors his wife, who honors the Lord. I just love that. But I was wondering in hindsight after the show yesterday, I wonder how much criticism he had faced before COVID. You know, I'm sure he'd face some, but just the enormity of the attacks that came against him. I mean, the weight and the sheer force of the attacks that came against him. And I know Laura Logan recently, I think just maybe a couple days ago, interviewed Dr. Stella Emanuel, who was, I mean, brutally attacked during COVID for her stance because she was one of the very, very first, if not the first doctor in the US to bring hydroxychloroquine to patients because of her ties to Africa. Her doctors in Africa had been treating patients for COVID and saw that they were doing really well. The ones that were on anti-malarials were doing really well. And so, anyway, it's just if you do anything good, you will face attacks, right? I mean, the Bible teaches us that, and we don't have to camp out here. But I want people to be encouraged. If you shrink back because you're afraid of attacks, then you're not going to be able to do. You're not going to be in a position to do anything meaningful.
That's right. That's exactly right, Danielle. And it is extraordinary the extent to which these just highly respected and even renowned professionals, Malone, McCullough, Stella Emanuel, and so many others, went from being so highly regarded, even by the establishment, to utter mockery and disdain for taking a position which was a valid and legitimate position on an issue that was not in accord with the establishment narrative.
Yeah.
And it's just unbelievable. And it had nothing in reality to do with their qualifications or their backgrounds or anything else. It had to do with the fact that the establishment narrative, and specifically the stranglehold that these manufacturing companies have on the medical discipline, the medical industry, was being threatened.
Yeah.
And so it's just, but they kept fighting through. They did not cower.
Yeah.
And I respect them so much for that. Imagine where we would be right now if those doctors had simply cowered, went away, and surrendered.
Well, one common theme across them, Chris, that I've noticed is the ones who have remained standing are believers in Jesus.
Everyone. Every one of them. Wow. Not coincidental, is it?
No, I don't think so. I'm pretty sure it's not. We have some friends in the chat already this morning. Hi guys, I see you on Rumble, and I think we're being featured on Rumble this morning. So a big thank you to the Rumble editors team, especially Nick. Thank you, Nick. I see Blaze saying good morning. I see Bert out here saying speak on the subject of raising a hand count army, and our take always on Mark Cook's roadshow. We'll definitely, Mark Cook is definitely on the agenda for today. Bert will be getting to that. Old Lady Runner is saying good morning again, and apparently our own Pennington is still harming Dr. Malone. What an embarrassment. What an absolute disgrace. I'm glad that Dr. Malone considers Governor Landry a friend. I think if anyone knows how to exert pressure in this state, Governor Landry has been using that muscle. So I pray that he uses it in that instance.
Yeah, that is a colossal embarrassment.
It is. And then Blaze said that he really enjoyed his remarks about how he responded, I think, speaking about Dr. Malone. Dr. Malone's response to the criticism. Yeah, absolutely. I think that was excellent. Well,
Very gracious man.
hi, Debbie. Oh, that makes sense, Debbie. Thank you. Okay. Well, I think if we're going to get into it, Chris, some of the things that we had on our agenda for today, the first was that there's some updates around the issue of carbon capture and sequestration and eminent domain. The first among them being Professor Faritesh Amami is now got a hearing date set finally. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, February 20th. Dr. Amami is the renowned scientist who was commissioned by Southeastern University over in Hammond to study toxins in Lake Maurepas to determine the extent to which Lake Maurepas had a problem with toxins. And her results of her study were absolutely startling. She was commissioned by Air Products, which is a heavy promoter of carbon capture and sequestration, to do the study. And obviously, they wanted her to come back with something that was far less severe than she did. Well, she came back and it showed this is a real problem. And so the university removed her from the lead scientist position on that issue because she published her results. And so she filed an administrative grievance. She's being represented by William Most, alleging that she was removed improperly, simply for exercising her First Amendment rights. There's a hearing set there on February 20th at the university, and we'll see what happens there. This is very important, Danielle, because heavy industry, as you know, is promoting carbon capture and sequestration, and one of the huge concerns is precisely that: contamination in the water aquifers and the soil and in the water. So they're obviously trying to suppress information that runs contrary to their narrative that CCS is very safe and all the rest of it. So it's a big deal. February 20th is that hearing, and William Most, we're going to try to get him on shortly after that hearing so that we can discuss that further. But I know that the anti-CCS people are very interested in this, as are we.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me make a note to reach out after we get off, so before I forget. And then there's a couple of bills as well, Chris. Well, first I just want to say, I think every hidden thing will be revealed. You know, I believe all of these companies that are doing such evil things, like signing non-disclosure agreements with municipalities and cities and with the Louisiana Department of Economic Development, it's all coming out. It's all coming out because people in this state love truth. And they may not sit in political offices, but they do care about their property. They care about their grandkids. They care about the future. And I don't think that these companies are going to prevail in covering up the truth about who they are and what it is they're trying to do for how much money any longer.
You know, the first or second sentence of the Gospel of John, Danielle, said that says, a great light now shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. And that great light is the truth.
Yeah.
And we're on the side of the truth, and the darkness will not overcome it. And I do agree with you that Louisiana citizens want the truth. The problem is many of them are not getting the truth, which is the reason why we are here. They will be motivated to act if they know the truth. But on the some of the carbon capture sequestration bills, which I believe I can certainly say that these bills are the result of an enormous amount of pressure that was placed on legislators to do something about this scam in our state and the threat to our health and our property of carbon capture sequestration. So House Bill 7,
Hold on, Chris.
yeah.
Before you launch into that, there's a question in the chat. Is the Southeastern hearing open to the public? Do you
Oh,
happen to know?
yes. Oh, absolutely open to the, good question. It is open to the media and to the public. So William
Do you
Most
happen
is
to have
going
a
to,
link we could drop in the chat, or if somebody's able to look it up, drop it in the chat if you don't mind.
yes, yes. So William Most is going to be going in on February 20th and arguing that it was absolutely a violation of Dr. Amami's core First Amendment free speech rights, the action that was taken against her to remove her. And just think about this, Danielle, how absolutely insane this is. It was the university commissioned the study. It was Air
Yeah.
Products that funded the study. She does the study objectively, fairly, accurately, and then has the audacity to publish the studies. And so they punish her and remove her for doing exactly what they asked her to do, all because they don't want the truth about the connection between heavy industry and contamination and pollution to be disclosed to the public. That's what we're dealing with, and that's what William Most is going to go in and try to get her relief from. And
Well,
it
Chris,
is open to the media. Yeah, it's open to the
if
media and to the public.
if
Oh, do
you
you
were
want to know, Danielle? I can. Do you want me to see if I can find real quick the where the hearing is? Exactly. It's going to be. It's at Southeastern University in Hammond, and it's in room Fayard, Fayard, and it's 303,
what time?
10 a.m.
10 a.m. on the.
on February 20th.
All right. Okay. I put that. Well, I put it in the Rumble chat. I need to put
Yeah.
it over here.
This is just absolutely egregious, and it's certainly perfectly consistent with these NDAs that these corporations are forcing the local municipalities to sign, so that they can't talk about the details of these carbon capture sequestration agreements. One big
Yeah.
effort to suppress and conceal the truth from the public. That is what is going on here.
Yeah, well, and the point that I wanted to bring out is just one that William Most said when he was on our show, which is he doesn't think that they had any real problem with the findings themselves, because normally those would go into scientific journals that never see the light of day. But when she started speaking to broader media outlets and answering questions about what it might mean for public health, that's when things went a little haywire. That's when the administration started running for cover and trying to and shutting her voice down. So I think that's even more egregious. I think makes the point that it is an absolute First Amendment violation because they were suppressing her speech.
Yeah, and it's the difference between 10 or 12 scientists reading what's in a scientific journal and, members of the public much more broadly knowing what's going on and being able to come to our own conclusions about it. That's the difference.
Yeah. Bert says he sent us a text with that's for a CCS meeting on Tuesday, February 10th on Capitol Hill in the Cannon House Office Building. We ought to find out which representatives will be in attendance there. Or if it's
Absolutely.
just
That's a
staff.
federal.
Yeah. All right. We'll take a look at this, Bert, and we can drop this in the on our Facebook and social media as well for folks.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, do you want to get into some of these pre-filed bills related to eminent domain?
Yeah, I just want to run through these. Mike
Yeah.
Johnson has a bill, and as I said, Danielle, there's no doubt that these bills were being brought because of the heavy pressure that has been brought to bear on these legislators for ushering this scam into our state to begin with, what RFK Jr. called the exact type of government and corporate merger that is destroying our country, this type of boondoggle. RFK Jr. said that. So these bills are designed to repeal it and to once again return Louisiana citizens to a state of constitutional protection.
Yeah, and maybe just for those who are tuning in from out of state, this is a state representative, Mike Johnson, not Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson.
Exactly. The state rep, Mike Johnson. But HB 7, it's a strong bill that would repeal any and all facets of eminent domain for any carbon and capture sequestration projects, whether it's the geologic storage of CCS or the pipeline transportation of it. So it would have to be purely voluntarily in order to be able to implement CCS projects on any private property. And the bill looks very good, the language of it. The likelihood of it getting through the House are 50-50 at this point. In the Senate, it probably goes down. So there's going to have to be strong citizen involvement in this to get this bill through. But the language of it is good, and we support HB 7. HB 5, which is very similar to what Chuck Owen brought last year, Danielle, would simply return all of this to the localities and give every local government the option of determining whether they want CCS in their parishes or not.
Hang on though. To go back to the one that would repeal eminent domain, and you were just giving kind of your assessment of the fact that it would probably fare pretty well in the House, but then in the Senate may face some challenges. I think our strategy for doing this in the Senate is that we need to exert not just a lot of pressure on the senators themselves, but I think we need to exert pressure on Governor Landry and on Speaker Henry, or whatever, President Henry, President of the Senate Henry. So maybe that can be a focus of an early call to action, because we know that that's where the Achilles heel of carbon capture and eminent domain is.
Absolutely. What they want, those two individuals you just named, what they want in the Senate is going to go in the Senate.
Yeah.
You recall the three bills, we're not going to get into them, from last session that Cameron Henry allowed to die on the Senate floor, despite a lot of calls to action that went to him that were ignored. So we have to ramp up the pressure here. And if there was ever a time when the legislature should pass legislation that rolls back this CCS, it is right now, because the pressure is getting bigger and bigger, and it is a defining issue in our state right now, thanks to folks like Save My Louisiana and others. So we're going to do that. But I agree with you, Danielle. The pressure really should be isolated to Cameron Henry and to the governor. On that bill. HB 5 is the local option bill that we just talked about on CCS. And then Johnson also brought HB 6, which, assuming the total repeal fails and the bill that allows this to go back to all of the parishes so they can make individual determinations, he has a bill that would simply allow Rapides Parish, his parish, to opt out because he represents Rapides Parish. So those are the bills on that.
Hold on. Okay.
Yeah.
And I just want to give some space for some chats here, Chris.
Sure.
Blaze says, and of course, getting into those committees early is important. I think we need to be visible and vigilant. Abso-stinking-lutely. We cannot say it enough. All of these organizations from across the state that have united purpose, Chris, these patriotic groups that we work with, need to be present as much as possible. And I know for some it's harder to get there because it's further. But I think if we can be organized, we should be absolutely very tightly organized on this issue.
And the best way to be organized is to be a member and subscriber to the State of Freedom and to be a member of LCAG. And you'll get the calls to action, you'll know what's going on, And on the State of Freedom, you're going to be informed about all of this day by day in real time. So it's very important that you listen and subscribe, so we can give you all of this information and we can sort of direct our actions collectively.
Yeah. And then Debbie says, seems Henry does what his governor tells him to do. That has been our experience as well, Debbie. So we're working to change that. We're working to
Well
change that for
said.
both of them.
Yes, and they know now. See, they know now, they've been educated now, that when they make bad votes, even if we're not right there in the room with them, which we try to be, even if we're not directly testifying, they know that we are there even when we're not there.
That's right.
Because they know that we are going to determine and know exactly how they voted, and it's going to be exposed broadly what they are doing there. They're not going to be able to get away with anything. So even when we're not there, we're there. Okay, and we've established that reputation at this point. So, and by the way, I want to give a shout out to We the People, the Bayou community, We the People, because that organization, Danielle, of which you are a member, you talk about walking the walk. They're not just about cocktail parties and photographs. They are about concrete action.
That's
and
right.
I love We the People, love working with them and y'all, because y'all are about getting things done and achieving measurable results. We need a lot more like We the People. Let me
Thanks,
talk
Chris.
about, is there another question?
No, I think you can go.
Okay.
Go for it.
You know, as it stands right now, Danielle, and this is infuriating, in Louisiana, if there's a carbon capture and sequestration pipeline running under somebody's property against their will, and there's a rupture and it causes, a lot of injury, catastrophic injury, like it did over in Sartoria, Mississippi, when one of the pipelines ruptured. There's a cap in Louisiana that says the maximum someone can recover in non-economic damages is $250,000. Are you kidding me? What if you have an 18-year-old son who is catastrophically injured because of a pipeline burst on someone's property, and the legislature is going to cap his non-economic damages at $250,000?
Or what
you
if
talk about
everybody in a
adding.
mile and a half of it dies of
Exactly.
asphyxiation?
Especially when they intend to put these pipelines within 500 yards or 500 feet of a school, as Shannon McManus just pointed out yesterday. So HB 79 will repeal the damage caps for people who are injured through accidents or pipeline ruptures related to carbon capture and sequestration. And I think it's highly appropriate, absolutely needs to be done. So this bill removes those caps and allows citizens to seek full relief and full damages that are commensurate with any injuries that are suffered. This is a very important bill. Hopefully, Danielle, it'll never come to that point, because the whole mess, the whole boondoggle racket is going to be repealed and go away. But if it doesn't, this is important. And then there's also.
Hang on one second.
Yeah.
And there's a comment in the chat that says, as far as local control here in Caddo, decisions regarding CCS were announced with no opportunity for the citizens to wage opposition. It was a done deal by Eric England of the Shreveport Bossier Port. So
Eric England, Shreveport Bossier Port. So they sneak this thing through in the dark of the night to impose this on the citizens of Caddo Parish with absolutely no opportunity to express any resistance or express their opinion. And I guarantee you they did this through a non-disclosure agreement that is being foisted upon these local municipalities so that the citizens are not aware of what's going on. These non-disclosure agreements are horrendous. And thank you for chiming in from Caddo Parish. That's important information to know.
And another one from Debbie asking, what if it destroys nice homes? Doesn't it even pay for the rebuild? I think that's a great point. Are they going to lean on our insurance companies? Maybe we could get Tim Temple to weigh in on this.
Absolutely. I'd love to have Tim Temple on, but this is a big issue about what homeowners insurance even covers. That's a great point. So there is a possibility that a homeowner could be sitting out in the cold, not only being provided no protection from the actual wrongdoer above $250,000, but not even being provided any protection from their insurance company because there could be an exclusionary clause in their homeowner's policy. So this is just absolutely, it's reprehensible, the structure that is currently in place, and HB 79 will help to change that by repealing these damage caps. I also wanted to mention, Danielle, HB 80, which is also being brought by Representative Robbie Carter.
Yeah.
Right now in Louisiana, if there's an accident, you have to show that somebody was negligent, acted negligently in order to be able to sue them and recover damages. HB 80 would remove that and impose what's called strict liability, which means if there is a pipeline rupture or any accident on private property or even if it's not on private property, even on public, associated with the operations of pipelines or geologic storage of CO2, any kind of accident that causes damage or injury, the person, the pipeline operator and the CCS companies are automatically liable for it just by virtue of the fact that there was an accident. You don't even have to prove negligence. And
why should you have to prove negligence, Chris? This is proof that the legislators who allowed these kinds of rules to get passed in the first place do not care about the people that they are put there to serve. If they cared about the people, why is the onus on the people whose lives are destroyed, disrupted, upended to also go and be freaking Aaron Brockovich in their own community after their lives destroyed and prove that these people were being negligent? Obviously, if something blew up, they did something wrong.
Exactly. So something happens, causes damages, you're responsible for it. Strict liability in Louisiana, also the bill brought by Robbie Carter. And so, Danielle, these bills, once again, are designed to protect Louisiana citizens from what has been unleashed on our state by our legislature. And recall, Danielle, that the original bill that allowed eminent domain in Louisiana declared carbon capture and sequestration a public good as a matter of Louisiana policy in order to protect the environment with zero debate in the legislature back in 2020, was passed in the middle of COVID when everyone was preoccupied and distracted with lockdowns and vaccine mandates and trying to help their families survive. The legislature goes in precisely at that moment and passes some of the most consequential legislation in Louisiana history when nobody had an opportunity to be there to oppose it or to express their opinions. And certainly there was no debate in the legislature, as we know full well now, regarding this issue.
Yeah.
So this has got to be rolled back, and the force that is gathering in Louisiana on this issue, carbon capture and sequestration, Danielle, is becoming more and more potent every day. It is the defining issue right now in Louisiana, in my opinion, other than the security of our elections, which we will get to. And the reason why it is so important is because it relates directly to our core private property rights, billions and billions of dollars of our money, and our public health, because of the possibility of the CO2, compressed CO2, leaching into the Chico water aquifer and contaminating our drinking water and our groundwater. That's why CCS is so critically important in Louisiana. And people are waking up, Danielle. People are waking up.
Yeah, and just a note to our legislators, people may have made bad votes in the past. People may have made ill-informed votes or taken votes because they were pressurized.
Absolutely.
Those are just facts of the past. But if you want to rectify the record going forward, if you want people to believe that you have the best interests of the people that you are sent there to serve at heart, then you've got to do something to rectify the situation. We have to look to the past because we have to live with the consequences of the past, and that's what we're doing right now. We are living in the consequences of past votes right now. But those can be fixed, but go and fix them. Don't just tell me how sorry you are. Fix them.
Make it right.
Yeah.
Make it right. There should not even be any controversy about whether or not HB 7 is going to get through the legislature. This should fly through the legislature. And any Republican legislator right now who actually vocally on record opposes this bill in committee or anywhere else is going to be exposed to their voters in their district for doing so. I would like to know which Republicans at this point are going to oppose this bill. I want to know that. I want to know which legislators are going to oppose removing the cap on damages as well. So these are
And Chris, I wonder,
yeah.
I would think Democrats also like clean drinking water. So
Absolutely. It's not just Republicans, it's Democrats as well. And so, and again, we don't mean to neglect the Democrats in the legislature. And we have mentioned Democrats in the legislature a number of times when they've crossed the aisle and done things the right way and voted the right way. But we are Republicans, and we have a supermajority Republican legislature, and there shouldn't be any controversy about whether or not these bills are going to pass our legislature, especially when we watch time after time after time these Republican candidates running for office on platforms of constitutional conservatism. Well, honor that when you get there. Honor that when you get there. And that's what we're doing right now. We're going to make sure that these bills get passed. And so I'm just telling you what I've heard through the grapevine, Danielle. 50-50 chance in the House, and then we'll see what happens over in the Senate. That's not acceptable.
And Chris, I just want to mention that what we're doing here by being so vocal about this is offering a whole lot of air cover to legislators, right? We know that you come under pressure from the governor. We know that you come under pressure from special interests, lobby, all of these different corporations that stand to make so much money from this. We want them to know that you're also coming under opposing pressure from we the people. And that's why we're here. And so I would just hope that this would be an encouragement to our legislators. We've got your back. Now go do the right thing. We're happy to fight off the big corporates, and we're happy to fight with lobby on your behalf, but go take the right vote.
And Danielle, I personally take far more pleasure in extolling the virtue and the courage of good leaders than I do hammering the cowards in our
I
midst.
know.
I would much prefer to sit here and extol the virtue of great leadership in the legislature. But
I know.
quite frankly, we have not seen a lot of great leadership in our legislature. And so we have to address all of the issues, and we have to address the fact that we need good leadership, especially on these issues here. We are not going to accept a situation, Danielle, where an outcome here is preordained. So someone who's bringing legislation, good legislation, because of enormous pressure from his constituents and his voters, to preordain an outcome here so that he can then say, I did my best, I worked really hard, I'm sorry I didn't have the votes. That's not acceptable.
Yeah.
You have to get it passed, and you have to get it to the governor's desk. And if it gets there and the governor doesn't sign it, then we're going to hammer him too. And so that's what it comes down to. This is too important. We do not want this in our state. And Danielle, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., as you know, he put it better than anybody else. And I think I said it a minute ago. The carbon capture sequestration boondoggle is precisely the type of corrupt government corporate merger that is destroying, ruining our country. Yeah. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and he's 100% right.
He is. We have some very kind words in the chat here from Facebook. David says, we are voicing our frustration with our legislators. They know we are not powerless. Thanks for opening more eyes on carbon capture. Thank you, David, and thank you for being in the chat and for supporting us. Thanks for tuning in. And Ella says, thank you, Chris and Danielle, for your hard work in helping to protect Louisiana citizens. God bless you. God bless you, Ella. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We're so honored to be able to be a voice for the people. Yeah, absolutely. Well, do you want to get into, why don't we kind of switch gears here and talk a little bit about a response to the Minnesota Don Lemon, ridiculous intrusion on First Amendment rights by going into that church a couple weeks ago. Rep. Brian Glorioso brought a bill to address that should it happen in Louisiana, God forbid.
Right in the middle of a church. Just for the listeners to know,
Yeah.
Danielle, you want to give a little recap on what happened? So we have a bunch of Antifa agitators led by Don Lemon invading a private church service. Was that in Minnesota, Danielle?
Yeah. In
In
Minneapolis.
Minnesota, would not leave, disrupting Christian worship, uninvited, and wouldn't leave. Well, Don Lemon was arrested, and a number of other ones were arrested for that in Minnesota, and I think are being now prosecuted for it. So Glorioso's bill is in response to that, pursuant to that incident there, and his bill would make that type of disruptive activity, invading and disrupting a private church service, not just a misdemeanor disturbing the peace, which it is now, but he would upgrade it to a felony grade crime carrying up to 10 years in prison and a substantial fine. So I believe that that is a good bill. And I'm not. The reason why I think it's a good bill, Danielle, is because it's no longer just a misdemeanor offense. It's a felony now. And I believe that it is serious enough to be a felony. If a person, trespassing in something so sacred as a private Christian worship service and disrupting that, I think is a felony offense. It's that serious. So I applaud Representative Glorioso for bringing the bill.
And Chris, let me just ask you for some clarification on that point. So in Minnesota, I don't believe state charges were brought because the state is so corrupt. DOJ, is it DOJ that's handling those charges against Don Lemon and against those agitators? So they are bringing federal charges against them, I think, for violating the FACE Act, which is a federal law, and also I can't remember the other one. Something about rights.
Yeah,
Will Chamberlain talked about it.
Absolutely. For the infringement of their core freedom of association, freedom of assembly, freedom of speech, direct trespass upon the core constitutional rights of those congregants in that church. So there are federal laws that they violated, but I think what Glorioso is trying to do here is to beef up the mechanism whereby the state itself can prosecute these offenses. And
Okay,
so that's good.
here's what I'm getting at. So should something like this happen, God forbid, in Louisiana, say it happens in a place where we would where we would have prosecutors who would charge with state laws. Is there reason to believe that the feds could also dump federal charges on top of that? Is that a possibility, or is it one or
Absolutely.
it's okay? So it's both. They can
Absolutely.
do
It's
both.
called
Okay.
concurrent jurisdiction. As a general rule, Danielle, while both the state and the feds would have jurisdiction in that case, as a general rule, one or the other would end up being the primary prosecutorial
Okay.
arm on it. And by communication with each other and coming to a decision about the best way to proceed. So it's pretty rare that both the state and the feds would be proceeding at the same time. Either
Okay.
the feds would probably wait until the state case was wrapped up to see if the process was sufficient, the penalty was sufficient,
Okay.
and then they probably would lay off at that point. Or if the feds go forward, then they, in all likelihood, the state would defer to the feds. But I think that Glorioso here is simply trying to make sure that there is a robust criminal mechanism here to hold these people accountable in Louisiana. And by elevating this from a misdemeanor to a felony in Louisiana, he's doing that. And by the way, just to clarify, Danielle, it can be, the felony can be up to 10 years in prison if there is a weapon involved,
Okay.
or if there's any kind of serious injury. They can do
Okay.
10 years in prison for it.
Okay. And David, thank you very much. A conspiracy to deprive rights. That's what I was searching for. And
That's my friend David right there. So, a conspiracy to deprive the congregants of the church of their core constitutionally protected rights.
yeah.
Thank you, David. Oh, by
And
the way, Danielle, there's a misdemeanor. There's another bill that's being brought by Laurie Schlegel related to this, which simply expands the definition of disturbing the peace to
okay.
include precisely this type of disruption, but it would still be a misdemeanor. But if Glorioso's bill passes, I'm sure that Schlegel would probably defer her bill.
Okay. And one, a great question from Debbie in the chat. Didn't Senator Hodges pass a bill that protects our right to worship? Is there a penalty in the law related to that bill?
Uh, Senator Hodges did pass a bill related to our right to free speech, but I don't believe that that is a criminal provision. I think that that is a civil bill that she passed. These bills make these people criminally liable for these actions.
Okay. And then moving on, Chris, we, on this topic of pre-filed legislation still, Representative Dixon McMakin from Baton Rouge has filed a bill that we saw something very similar last session for a constitutional convention. And you can, I don't know if you've dug into that bill yet or not. I have not, but I just saw it and rejected it on site completely. My view, and you know it well, is any any move toward a constitution is going to be rejected by me until we fix our elections, because I can't trust that the people we're sending there have my best interest at heart, and I can't trust that anything that's going to hit a ballot in the future is trustworthy either. So I say absolutely no constitutional convention. Fix my elections, and then we can talk.
Yeah, the purported basis for McMakin's House Bill 4 to call for a constitutional convention in Louisiana is that there are way too many provisions in our Constitution that don't belong there. They belong in statute. They don't go to issues of fundamental constitutional governance. And that's why they don't belong there. And that's why our Constitution has been amended so many times since it was enacted. I agree with Dixon McMakin in principle that we do need to remove much of this baggage from our Constitution. But the devil is in the details. And I do not want to be in a situation where we have a constitutional convention and we're opening the door to a bunch of elected, quote unquote, elected leaders and representatives toying with our core constitutional protections. I don't want to give them that opportunity. Look at Constitutional Amendment 2, Danielle, in March, where if that Constitutional Amendment 2 had passed, it would have removed from the Constitution core tax exemption protection for churches in our Constitution. It would have removed it and just put it back in statute. That's something that belongs in the Constitution. I don't want people going into a constitutional convention with carte blanche to mess with with core constitutional provisions. The devil's in the detail. I want to know what the parameters are. I want to know the extent to which there will be delegates, ordinary citizens from all over the state chosen to participate in this process. I want to know the extent to which any constitutional convention truly is something of, by, and for the people. Otherwise, I don't trust it, and I certainly understand your point about elections as well. Tommy Tuberville, yesterday, the day before, came specifically out, and we're going to get to this, Danielle, speaking of people not being elected, and said, heck, there are leaders all over the country, I think he said, who clearly have not really been elected. We got to get rid of these machines. This is a U.S. Senator from Mississippi saying this yesterday.
Alabama? Isn't
Alabama,
Tuberville?
I'm sorry.
Yeah. What the point I want to make, Chris, is there have been about 100 bills pre-filed between the House and the Senate. Why is the constitutional convention at the top of the list, and elections are nowhere on there yet.
Well,
The
exactly.
most critical issue of this moment is our elections. If we fix our elections, we fix carbon capture. If we fix our elections, we fix taxes. If we fix our elections, we fix the schools. We fix everything when we fix our elections. And the resistance that there is in this state in Baton Rouge to fixing the elections just reeks. It absolutely reeks.
It does reek, and the silence speaks volumes. The silence of these
Yeah.
people. I do have reason to believe, Danielle. I've heard it through our exceedingly effective grapevine that there's very little movement right now on continued movement on the purchase of $150 million worth of electronic voting equipment. I have not confirmed that, but in light of the raid in Fulton County, in light of the deposing of Maduro in Venezuela, which we believe was prompted in significant part because of international election fraud, electronic election fraud with its genesis in Venezuela, and the possibility that President Trump could issue something related to all of those issues. I think are serving to impede and halt and slow down this purchase. At this point, Danielle, based on everything that is occurring on the national front, if Nancy Landry moves forward with these electronic voting computers, it's no longer a discretionary choice as the Secretary of State. At that point, it's an act of self implication. She's implicating herself in fraud and voluntarily assenting to it. And that's why I think she needs to be very, very careful before she pulls the trigger on this.
Well, Chris, I also believe that there's probably, I don't think she has the 150 million at her disposal right now. So one of our biggest defensive mechanisms for this session is going to be blocking any funding to the Secretary of State's office. At this point, I don't care what the funds are earmarked toward. I don't care if it's going to a museum. I don't care if it's going to a plaque. I don't care if it's to get more pencils. I say let's just block all funding to the Secretary of State's office until she listens to the people. Has anyone gotten a response to their message that they've sent through LeCag or through We the People Bayou Community or Northwest Louisiana or Women's Republican Club of New Orleans or the Louisiana Republican Assembly? Has anyone gotten a response from Secretary of State Nancy Landry to their opposition to the machines? I have not heard of one single person.
They are, I know they are getting those messages. There's no question. The fact that they're not responding does not mean that they're not getting the messages. But I agree with you, Danielle. A call to action to Jack McFarland and the House Appropriations Committee to absolutely block any funding toward these electronic voting computers. Any further funding allocated
No, you know
should
what?
not happen.
She pushed legislation to silence our voices. I say we don't put any funds in her office, period. And we can just bleed it dry until it shrivels up and dies, and then maybe they'll think that we have come to the point where we are ready for paper ballots.
Absolutely. And we are indeed ready for paper ballots. Danielle, do you know that Louisiana, and Bert Calais will confirm this, and Mark Cook, do you realize that we are the only state in the country at this moment in time right now that has zero paper trail on our
Yeah,
elections?
yeah.
It's DRE, direct recording equipment. You press the button, and then your vote goes somewhere off into cyberspace, and you have absolutely no idea what happens to it. And there's zero paper. I mean, think about this.
Yeah, and they want to assuage that. The Band-Aid they have for that, Chris, is to give us a nice little paper receipt that they tell us is a ballot, which we know it's not a ballot, it's a paper receipt. And they want to say, "Well, this is your paper trail." Just just shut up.
Exactly. Here's your paper trail. We have no idea what kind of manipulation is occurring inside the machine. We don't have any idea what has changed there. and whether or not that vote inside the machine remains consistent with what is printed out. And that assumes, Danielle, that the voter is going to look down at this paper receipt and verify, yep, that's who I voted for. 80% of voters don't even look at that when it's printed out. So they don't have any
And
idea.
it also assumes that it prints out what you actually voted for, which it probably what actually goes into the machine, right?
Exactly.
So it may match what you voted for, but what happens inside the machine, there's
What happens
no idea.
inside the cyberspace, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's the deal there. I know we got a little bit off track there, but nonetheless, I agree with your position about the absolute importance of fixing these elections in Louisiana.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't that far off track because we did want to talk a little bit about Mark Tripp's visit over the last week or so to Louisiana. I know he made a number of stops. He stopped in Baton Rouge. He was in Houma, New Orleans, St. Tammany, and I believe Lafayette. The feedback that we received from our meeting with him was outstanding. I think, Chris, yours was also really good.
Oh, it was extraordinary. It was, and I want to give hats off to Bert Calais, hats off to Christy Hike, Louisiana Republican Assembly, and all of the great patriots that we worked with on this to make sure that Mark Cook's traverse through Louisiana was rewarding and productive, and it was. We, Danielle, collectively organized, I think, 5 in-person audiences for Mark, and I think 2 Zoom presentations at least. And so he got a broad audience in Louisiana, brought a great message to us. And there is a plan to going forward regarding secure hand-marked paper ballots. What I want to do, Danielle, is get Bert back on the podcast within the next, as soon as we possibly can, so that Bert can sort of lay out exactly what the vision is here, because nobody knows it better than he does, and nobody works harder to secure it than he does. But this is all very, very doable. It's all very doable.
Yeah. And I think, Chris, from my perspective, Mark did a great job of explaining how every single aspect of our election system is compromised in some way. And the one bright spot we have going for us in Louisiana is our paper poll books, which, of course, they want to replace with iPads. So that
$12 million worth.
Yeah. So that takes me back to my previous statement of just block all funding to the Secretary of State's office. We can just bleed them dry until they are willing to negotiate.
I think, Danielle, a good, impactful call to action directly to Jack McFarland and every member of the House Appropriations Committee, demanding that there be no funding approved for the Secretary of State's office until she converts to a secure hand-marked paper ballot system. No money to go forward with these electronic voting computers.
I love
Did
that.
I tell you, Danielle, we're riding home from school the other day with Jenin, my 13-year-old, the one and only Pokey Claw G-Man. And he said, Dad, I hear you and Mom talking a lot about these computers and people voting on these computers and stuff. And he said, and hacking, he said, Dad, I know how to hack a computer. And I said, Jenin, you ought to go down to the legislature and tell these people that you know how to hack a computer.
Yeah.
And they don't need to be we don't need to be voting on hackable computers.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jenin. It takes straight from the mouth of babes.
I agree. And we have someone in the chat. I'm sorry, I don't know who MAB is, but so if you want to put your name so I can properly address you. No response at all from the Secretary of State regarding all of our letters, emails, and postcards. Cato, We the People, has sent over 200 postcards to the Appropriations Committee not to fund voting computers. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you to We the People, Cato. That's so awesome.
By the way, I have to, We the People, Cato, I'm going up there, Danielle, later this month to speak. It's Adele Schaeferman, Candy Peavy's group.
Awesome.
That is a great group of people up there. I'm from
100%.
Shreveport. I always love going up there, but I absolutely love those people. You recall, Danielle, that several of them were the ones who were the target of Nancy Landry's legislation this past session that now prohibits law-abiding citizens from conducting exit polls at voting precincts while CNN still gets to do them. And that is another thing that we're continuing to expose very broadly to the voters of the legislators who voted in favor of that. That is a reprehensible assault on the United States Constitution. Extraordinary. And our Secretary of State lied about these people in order to get that passed. She lied, boldly lied in front of a committee that these ladies were acting in a criminal way and I could have had them arrested, but I chose to handle it legislatively. Thank you so much, Nancy. Thank you, Comrade Nancy, for agreeing to handle this legislatively, the exercise of a core constitutional right. Anyway,
that circular, I know, but I'll join you on your rabbit trail. The circular reasoning of I could have had them arrested, but instead I needed to create a new law makes perfect sense. Come on.
Exactly. I thought I would just handle it legislatively
So
because they
ridiculous.
didn't break any law. But Comrade Greg Miller is the one who brought SB 80, the same one who crushed Valerie Hodges' bill that would have prohibited foreign enemies of our country from purchasing immovable property in Louisiana within 50 miles of a mill area. Yeah, that Comrade Greg Miller was the author of that bill. So we are continuing to broadly expose that. It's very, very important, Danielle, that everybody who's listening ask at least 3 or 4 of their friends, share the state of freedom.
Yeah.
Do you understand the difference we are going to make if people from across the state, everywhere, routinely listen to the state of freedom? That will revolutionize the way political advocacy is done in the state of Louisiana overnight. We will bypass the traditional mainstream gatekeepers and go straight to the people. That's why everyone should be very excited about what we are doing. How many people in Greg Miller's district do you think would vote to send him back to the state legislature if they knew that he facilitated a bill that crushes their speech, that crushes their First Amendment speech, and killed a bill that would protect our critical military installations from foreign terrorists? I don't believe he would be returning to the legislature. People have to know that.
No, and I believe, Chris, if I'm not mistaken, in the last month or two, we've seen Chinese nationals getting arrested off just outside of military bases in Missouri for this very thing that everyone in the what was it, a Senate committee?
Absolutely.
Declared was completely implausible. Jay Luno thought that, we were going to see Martians before that would be possible.
And here it is occurring. So it's just very important that we get this right.
Debbie says he is my senator. That's Comrade Miller she's talking about. And he never answered a single email I sent. When I confronted him face to face about it, he promised he was going to do better. Yes, he better do better, Debbie. That's so awesome. I'm so proud of you for confronting him face to face.
I'm proud of you.
I know
too,
you were.
Debbie.
I know you were so respectful. I'm not trying to encourage anyone to be ugly.
No,
Debbie
we
is
all.
super
That's one
respectful.
thing that separates us, Danielle. We can be demanding and stern and forceful with respect, and we will. But we will be absolutely unyielding on these issues, and that's exactly why, again, it's so important that everybody help us facilitate the broad dissemination of the state of freedom, because with information is power, as you know, Danielle.
100%. Okay, let me see. Is there anything else, Chris? I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to talk about with regard to Fulton County and what's going on there. I think you kind of covered it.
I believe, Danielle, well, this is sort of what I want to tell you about Bill Mitchell's ex post sort of goes to the elections, because I think one of the issues that he's alluding to in his ex post here has to do with elections. So what I'd like to do is just read to you briefly his ex post, because he appears to be very credible. I don't know exactly who Bill Mitchell is, but he has a lot of ex-followers, and he appears on the surface to be very credible. And he's putting this out there as of yesterday. And he says, you're not going to believe this drop on the Trump deep state takedown. Trump's DOJ is quietly building the biggest takedown in American history. Trump's DOJ is putting together a massive, massive ground conspiracy case against the deep state. It's way bigger than anyone realizes. That is why it has taken time to get it right. The corruption purge is coming with mass arrests. I guarantee you, Danielle, that has to include elections. They've been patient, gathering everything needed to make it stick. No half measures this time. This is the hammer we've been waiting for. The swamp isn't just getting drained, it's getting demolished. Trump doesn't play games when it comes to justice. Patriots, stay locked in. The storm is finally here, and it's going to be glorious. Lord, in all of your almighty glory, I hope that that is true.
Yeah, I hope so too, Chris. And I think at some point we're going to start seeing a big convergence, right? I think we're going to start seeing the election fraud start commingling somehow with the mortgage fraud that we've seen, the work that Peter Berniger's been doing, and then the fraud up in Minnesota, the fraud that's being exposed in California. I believe we're going to see all these roads start coming together. Then, we're also going to see the thread get pulled of that mortgage fraud that Sean Taylor brought up, and we've seen it with FEC, with who is the SEC? She's an SEC or a Fed chair rather.
Yeah.
Lisa Cook, the Fed chair, or not chair, but she's a member of the Fed or whatever you call it. She has a seat on the Fed, a
Okay.
governor. I think she's a governor is what you call it.
Okay.
And several others. I mean, Letitia James has significant mortgage fraud that she's staring in the face of, as well as others. And I think you start seeing all these, the F word, fraud, is starting to come together. And then they just dropped these 3 million new pages of Epstein files over the last couple of days that are getting uncovered. Have you not been following that?
I have. I mean, I heard that they had come out, and I've read sort of cursorily that apparently there are some things in here, in those documents that are just, extraordinarily incriminating.
Yeah. And so as those get read through and probably processed by AI and people, I think we're going to start seeing a lot of convergence there. And one fascinating thing that I feel like needs to be brought just a bright light. Sean Taylor, who was on our show, if you recall, Chris, the former deputy chief of police or something like that in Millersville, Tennessee, that was the Tennessee Bureau of Investigations really went after him because he was starting to uncover a vast RICO conspiracy. I think that he called it a transnational conspiracy on the show.
Yeah.
He posted a picture of himself with none other than Eagle Ed Martin earlier this week, or maybe it was the end of last week. So I find that very, very heartening.
I do too. Very, very heartening. So what Bill Mitchell is describing here, Danielle, is what he is predicting here and anticipating is a comprehensive deep state takedown by the Trump administration. That's what's being predicted here, and I believe that I'm cautiously optimistic that that is what is going to occur. And if there's
Yeah.
anybody who can do it, it's President Trump.
That's right. And Robin in the chat here says, yes, the file drop also includes information from 2012 about the pandemic simulations they were running. I saw that. I saw some of this stuff connecting Bill Gates with Epstein, which I know we have believed for a long time, but that stuff started coming out as well. And I saw something about JP Morgan, Big Pharma, and a number of others, just these massive companies and foundations, I think, as well as the World Health Organization or World Economic Forum. I can't recall exactly which one. They were all in on it. They were all in on it. Just like we all assumed they were all in on it. This shows that they were all in on it. So I think it's going to be very, very interesting to watch as these things start getting uncovered.
Develop. And I want to ask Robin, Danielle, I want to ask Robin, thank you for that information, Robin. That's
Yeah.
extremely helpful about the simulation. So they were basically doing trial runs before this
Yeah.
thing was unleashed. How nefarious, how evil is that? Robin, if you have some additional information on that, could you email it to me at chris@lacag.org, chris@lacag.org. I would love to be able to read some more about that. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Robin. And also, Chris, I see. Oh, you know what else we wanted to just mention quickly is a clarification on LeCag's scorecard.
Oh, I just wanted to point. There's been some controversy. Apparently, there are people who out there who are suggesting, people who don't like us anyway, people who attack us, people to whom the truth doesn't matter, and people to whom we rarely pay any attention. But I do want to clarify that there is a scorecard that's going around. I think it's JD Leo, and I think she's associated with Save My Louisiana. But it's just an isolated scorecard that she's doing on the issue of carbon capture and sequestration. And so she'll do a little analysis of how a legislator voted on relevant carbon capture sequestration issue, and then she'll put what their grade is on the scorecard based strictly on their carbon capture sequestration votes. I haven't even looked at those scorecards. I don't know. I'm sure, but I know that the grade is ostensibly based upon their votes on CCS. I just wanted people to know that while we support Save My Louisiana, and I know JD Leo and I really like her a lot, those aren't our scorecards. We don't have anything to do with those individualized scorecards. We don't do individualized scorecards. We do a comprehensive legislative scorecard at the end of every session. So if it's not generated from our social media platforms, or if it doesn't have our logo on it, then it is not LeCag's scorecard. So I just wanted everybody to know that. Now, that having been said, Danielle, I think there's something to be said for doing individualized scorecards. There are some people who are more concerned about the Second Amendment than they are about carbon capture. Some people are more concerned about abortion than they are about, the sales tax or
Yeah.
whatever. So I think there's something to be said for isolating scorecards according to issues, and we may do that. I just wanted to let the viewers know that you will know if LeCag generates a scorecard, and the ones that are being generated by JD Leo are not our scorecards. And that's just a point of clarification. I wanted people to know that.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, a couple of announcements here, Chris, unless you have anything else.
I guess I just wanted to thank all of our subscribers and listeners for chiming in today.
Yeah, I know it's so fun. I think I want to see more of this action in the chat all the time, but especially on Warrior Wednesdays when we have the opportunity to directly address a lot of them. Sometimes we're just not able because of the guest or the topic or whatever. Sometimes it's just because of tech not cooperating. But tech is tech is moving to be on our side. Hear that declaration today, everybody. Tech is moving
Tech
to be on
is
our side.
your friend. Tech is your friend.
Like Katie says, I'm getting better and better every day.
I'm getting better. Wait, there's a song, Danielle. There's a song by the Beatles. Bert
Is it?
Calais knows this song. It's getting better all the time.
All right.
Better,
I think it's
better.
time for announcements.
Oh, God. Yes.
All right. Just messing with you, Chris.
Don't quit your
Thanks.
day job.
I know. Okay, next Warrior Wednesday will be with a guest, and that one is February 18th. And our guest for that is the illustrious and one and only Joe Hoft. And he will be talking to us about whatever the latest happenings are, because you know Joe is always on top of the news. He's deeply, deeply steeped in the election stuff, and I know the Russiagate stuff as well. So I think he'll have plenty, plenty to say when we have him on in a couple weeks. So we will want you to make plans to be here. Go ahead and put it on your calendar so you can join us. That's going to be at 10 in the morning. We're not going to do that 8 o'clock at night nonsense anymore. Chris and I have learned a long time ago, we do our best work in the morning.
Danielle, you and I have burnt the midnight oil more than once,
Yeah.
and it is,
It's
we
it's
always
not pretty.
trudged through. It's not pretty. It's not pretty, but yeah, if we can avoid those
Yeah.
opportunities, we will avoid it in the future. Yes.
Yeah. So just a scheduling note, the first and third Wednesday of the month will be Warrior Wednesday, and then the second and fourth will be For the Love of Freedom. And the next guest I'm going to have on For the Love of Freedom next week is pretty awesome too. His name's Adam Hardage. He wrote a book about the preparing the next generation for a world driven by AI. So he's talking about how to protect our kids. So that is going to be very interesting, and I look forward to that conversation. But before we get there, we have Joe Altman coming on tomorrow, and we're super excited to have him back. So glad to see that he's receiving some beginnings of vindication, and I think we're going to be talking about what justice looks like for Colorado and for the country, for him personally, and we'll be talking about his candidacy because he is officially running for governor of Colorado, and what a rude awakening that will be for the deep state of Colorado.
Oh boy, you
Yeah,
talk about the deep state meets fierce patriot.
yeah,
We'll see. I think and I would not ever bet against Joe Altman.
no,
He has weathered the storm, Danielle, and he has come out, I think, stronger than ever. And I think that his vindication may be imminent.
yeah. And wouldn't it be awesome, Chris, that we see Tina Peters get out of prison like today, and then she just immediately announces a run for Secretary of State? That would be so awesome.
I tell you what, I think that she would ride a tie of enormous patriotic sentiment in the state of Colorado. I think even people who didn't fully understand what she was doing at this point have great empathy for the injustice being perpetrated on her. I think that would be Gina Griswold's worst nightmare.
Yeah. Well, after Gina Griswold's current nightmare of ending up in prison, which is where she
Well,
should
that's
be.
true. Yes. Are you allowed to run for a statewide office from prison?
I don't know. I guess it depends. I would think not. I mean, you can't vote, but doesn't mean you can't run, right? Maybe
Well,
that's.
if it's pre-conviction, you can't run for office if you've been convicted of a felony. But if
Oh.
she's just being held in jail before trial, I guess she could run from jail. You
She
know.
was convicted of a misdemeanor, but she was charged. She was sentenced by a felony.
No, I'm not talking about Tina. I'm talking about
Oh.
Gina Griswold.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
I'm talking about when she's in prison, will she still be able to run for reelection?
I don't know.
We'll see.
I don't know.
Yeah. But anyway, Danielle, before we go, I do want to reiterate. I want everybody who's listening to us to visualize how powerful it will be when the state of freedom is promulgated and known to every conservative in the state of Louisiana, where every conservative knows I don't have to do anything else. I don't have to wade through BS. I don't have to wonder about whether or not what I'm being told is a lie or whether it's true. All I have to do is listen to the state of freedom, and I'm going to find out everything I need to know on the state level, on the national level, and with respect to what my own senator and my own representative is doing in the legislature. I don't have to worry about being lied to anymore. So when I go vote, I am fully informed and can make an informed decision about whether or not he or she has earned my trust at reelection. That is what we were talking about, Danielle, and that's what I mean when I say we have an opportunity here to truly revolutionize the way political advocacy is done in Louisiana. Far less expensive. We don't have to wait to see what the gatekeeper has to say about something. We can do an end run around and bypass traditional mainstream media that nobody trusts anymore and deliver solid, reliable information to Louisiana citizens. That's why it is so important that our podcast continue to grow.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. I couldn't have said it better. And if folks are watching and have not subscribed, if you believe that we are bringing a great service to you, if you believe we're bringing the truth to you, please support us by becoming a monthly subscriber. And you can do that here, join.freedomstate.us. We'd love to have you as part of our backing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's so important to keep us going. And then just a reminder that all the calls to action that we mentioned today and those that will be mentioned in the future will be at lacag.org under the Action tab. You can go there and let your legislators or any other state officials know how you feel about the legislation that they're bringing, for better or for worse. And it's important that they have a record and that you have a record that you let them know so that they can't claim ignorance if we voice the way that we feel, if we
Yes.
voice our beliefs.
So here's the current plan, Danielle. We're going to do a sharp call to action on the CCS bills, and we're going to do a very sharp, impactful call to action to the Appropriations Committee on the funding of these computer-based votes. So doesn't matter how, no matter what anybody else does or says, if she doesn't have the money to do it, she can't go
right.
forward with it.
That's
It's
right.
not free. And so I think a strong call to action on that point is very, very good. So those are the immediate priorities as far as calls to action at lacag.org.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, Chris. It's been a great morning with you. It's fun. It's kind of feels like we're getting back into the saddle of things with the legislative session coming up. It's been a little while since we've started looking at these bills, but it's time to get back into it, and I think we're going to have a lot of fun. We were definitely going to have our work cut out for us this session, though.
We are. And I am just glad once again, Danielle, that on a daily basis, I am at least for an hour and 20 minutes the North Star to which your beautiful needle of attention turns.
Well, thank you, Chris. God bless you, and I will be seeing you back here tomorrow morning at 10 to talk to Joe Altman.
God bless you.
God bless you, sir.
Blanco Brothers has been in business in Louisiana for about 30 years now. I have personal experience with this company, and I know others who have as well. If you have a business or a home and you've got roofing, gutter, sheet metal issues at all, one number you need to know, and that's Blanco Brothers Construction. He will treat you right financially, and he will take very good care of you with regard to the quality of the service that he provides. I cannot recommend Blanco Brothers Construction more highly enough. Memorize the number 225-226-4222. Blanco Brothers Construction, the very best in the business. I went to Red Zeppelin yesterday with my second oldest son, Eli, and I got this large veggie pizza, which is the best in Baton Rouge. Red Zeppelin is the best kept secret, but because of us, it's really not a secret anymore. Anybody who has not been to Red Zeppelin on Perkins Road in Baton Rouge, you're truly missing out. The best environment, the best service, and the best pizza in the state of Louisiana. Go to Red Zeppelin today. Tell them the State of Freedom sent you.
Thanks for joining us today on the State of Freedom. Be sure and check out the show notes for this episode. You can always go there and find the calls to action and resources mentioned in the show, and you can find out more information about our advertisers there as well. If you want to learn more about us or support our work, visit freedomstate.us. To get involved with Louisiana Citizen Advocacy Group, visit lacag.org. We'll see you next time. God bless.